for this webinar on when you need a lawyer and when you don't, with construction lawyer Seth Smiley, who has been gracious enough to come here to co-host with us. I'm Justin Gittleman. I'm a payment expert here at Level Set for this. We have thousands of suppliers, subcontractors get paid through a variety of solutions. About here, Seth Smiley. He's a Louisiana construction attorney right here in New Orleans, actually, probably a few blocks from where we're at right now. Seth.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. You were breaking up a little bit, so I don't know if that's me or if that's you guys. But yeah, New Orleans construction lawyer. I've been practicing, over 10 years now in the thick of it in construction, helping contractors, subcontractors, material suppliers, and even GCs, developers. All those folks get paid on the job. And luckily enough, Justin was kind enough to ask me to do this. And I love talking about this subject in particular because there are times when lawyers are needed and there are times when lawyers are not needed. And I'm definitely one that kind of jumps on a soapbox about those types of things. And in order to make a lawyer's job easier, there's times when we're needed, but then there are other times when lawyers want to get their nose into things and they don't necessarily need to do it, and it's not going to help the situation. So yeah, I'm the owner of Smiley Law Firm here in New Orleans, and been dealing with liens and notices and suing subs and GCs and all this stuff for years and years and years. And a lien is a contractor's best friend and supplier's best friend. So if done right, they can really help secure payment on jobs.
Awesome. So yeah, here's just a quick overview about what we're going to talk about here. So I think just kind of dive right in and talk a little bit more about all that.
Sure, absolutely. So and if you want to go back to the previous slide real quick, we're going to be kind of overview of what we're doing. Basically the reactive versus the proactive legal help. There's a ton to be talked about right there. We're going to talk about common risks, and that has to do with different things like different provisions in contracts that are commonly litigated and things like that, or common issues that we see pop up all the time. How Level Set can help. And Level Set's actually a wonderful tool that we've been sending clients to for years and years and years, because it's a nice middle ground between the contractor doing it themselves, either, from a small company where it's, either the contractor, him or herself, or their family member doing it, up to bigger companies where they have, a controller or, some type of credit department, and they are trying to learn the rules of all these things and do it in-house, versus going out and hiring a full-fledged law firm to do these types of things for you, which can get very expensive very quickly. And a lot of times law firms aren't set up to send notices and file liens and do that. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into that aspect as well. And then, cost analysis. Again, everything's about money, right? And so many times on big disputes where, years of litigation and big brawl, the only people that make money on those are the lawyers. And so you very much want to factor in legal expenses into any type of annual budget. And lawyers definitely have a purpose, but Level Set's got some good ways to potentially offset that. So, and I always, there are people who say companies like Level Set and LegalZoom and various other companies are competition for lawyers. Where I see that they work hand in hand with one another, because there's skills, not skills, but things that they have, and they do products that they sell that, law firms are just not set up to do. And so when done correctly, you can have this nice harmony between law firms and Level Set or LegalZoom or whatever, and then they work well together. So that's a little bit about what we'll be talking about.
Thanks, Seth. Yeah, let's dive into some of your experience on the reactive versus proactive side of things.
Sure. Yeah, and one of my favorite sayings for contractors, and I always say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And what that means, I stole that from the medical industry, but it's very true. A lot of times when folks get onto a construction project, Bigger projects, a little bit different story, but smaller projects, you have people going in and they're negotiating contracts, they're putting bids out, they're doing all this work in-house. And then they're not always making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And then later on, 80% of jobs, 90% of jobs probably go fine. You don't have any issues. Everybody's paid, work is done, no problems. Boom, all of a sudden, it hits the fan. And then everybody's running around scrambling. How do I collect my money? The GC is going bankrupt, or they're not paying, they're slow paying, late paying, doing all this stuff. What's my recourse and what can I do? So then all of a sudden you turn into reactive stage, and that is not when you want to. That's not when you want to go see a lawyer. It can be when you're proactive. Yes, you're going to have to pay more money up front. But you're going to reduce your risks later on. So all lawyers will tell you, like, we love getting the people who come in and they're like, oh no, I hadn't been paid $1 million and everything's going wrong on this job. So, because we're like salivating at that point, we're like, sweet, let's go run with this thing. Let's sue them. Let's sue everybody on the job, and and then we'll work it all out at the end. And we have countless stories of people who come in and, they're owed, say, for example, $1 million, and then they sue. And then the GC comes back and says, well, change orders and, delays and back charges. You think you're owed one. Well, we think you owe us $2 million, right? And then you have this big battle that ensues. And then hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees later, you walk away with like 250,000, and you've paid 100 out to your attorney, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? I was supposed to get $1 million a year ago or 2 years ago, and now I'm getting 150,000. What just happened there? Or sometimes walking away for zero and being like, wow, I'm glad I didn't have to pay $2 million. So, and that's why that's why a lot of our clients, don't like construction lawyers, is because they end up in that kind of mess. So anyway, so being proactive helps to smooth a lot of that out. It helps to have the contractor or the supplier see a lot of the potential pitfalls before they happen, and it allows them to be able to adjust quickly or know what their ramifications are, so they can solve things much more quickly. When you're in reactive mode, it tends to be high stakes because you've tried everything in the book before you actually go hire a lawyer, and it ends up being an extremely turbulent time. And it's nasty for everybody, and our adversarial system in the law makes it even worse. And people that you had long-standing business relationships with, a lot of that gets terminated, and you never do business with them again, simply because of some nasty legal battle. So that we always want to try to figure out a way to stay out of the courtrooms and get things handled in an efficient manner to get everybody back to work so they can keep generating revenue for their company. Absolutely.
I think there's probably a handful of specific situations I would think you could speak to that
Sure.
On the proactive side versus reactive, like how people can prepare better for the reactive side, all that.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I always tell people, a lot, for whatever reason, many of our clients don't want to come in on the front end and get their contracts negotiated. And maybe it's ignorance, maybe it's they don't want to pay the money, they don't want to do whatever. But pretty much every contract that you enter into, save for like a mortgage or your cell phone contract or whatever, you can negotiate that contract. So if you're going into a deal and you're a painting subcontractor, that GC, like, there's terms in there that you can negotiate and you can deal with. And so you want to have a lawyer on your side. You don't want to just run out and say, oh man, there's this guy, there's a project out there. We're eligible for the bid. We came in at low bid. We just want to sign whatever they give us just so that we can get that project. I've seen companies go out of business based on that model, because they're like, yes, I'm so happy. The biggest contract we ever had before was $250,000. Now we signed $1 million deal. This is going to grow our company, and we're going to sail off into the sunset and do big jobs. Where that GC is used to dealing with small subs, and they're like, haha, we got another one. And they just signed off on our one-sided contract. And if anything ever goes wrong, we have them nailed. And so Subcontractors, material suppliers are actually really good. They're typically bigger companies, and they negotiate good terms, and they work with lawyers and deal with that. GCs are usually pretty good at it. It's your subs and your subs of subs and various people like that, or even developers sometimes too, because they're not always as sophisticated. They will enter into these one-sided contracts, and it ends up being very bad. So you want to make sure on that front end that you're either giving people your contract that a lawyer has drafted up, that has attorney's fees clauses, that has indemnity clauses, that has all these things that help you, rather than signing someone else's and just signing away everything that's a one-sided contract against you. Where on the front end, you could say, okay, we're going to accept this $1 million deal, but I'm not going to indemnify you for, some crazy thing that's out of my control. We're not going to have these damages for delay clauses that are this extreme. And a lot of times a sophisticated person that you're contracting with will actually have more respect for you and your company if you are negotiating those things on the front end, and they'll say, hey, look, these guys have it together, and they know what they need to be doing in order to have a successful outcome on this job. So go ahead.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on like material price escalation clauses, or like risk shifting clauses, all that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, and it's very similar to what we were talking about a minute ago. The people who are writing these contracts, they've been burned before, or their company has, or whatever. And so they see what's coming up, and they see material shortages, and they see these pay if paid and pay when paid and all that fun stuff. They know that they've been down that road before, and so they're going to write it one-sided their way. And if people sign it, great. If people push back, then they're like, okay, we need to make this a little bit more fair. And so it's just one of those things. The material prices are very hot ticket items right now. I have a friend who had a new house that he was going to be building, and he got it rebid out, and it went up 40% just because of material cost. And so he's like, hey, what can we do about that? And I'm like, well, the way your contract's written, you're going to just either have to pay it or wait to build your house. So it's one of those things where you have to negotiate those things before you sign on the dotted line. And so, the contract stage, the negotiation in the beginning is a very important part to have lawyers. And most lawyers know it. Like, hey, look, if we nip it in the bud there, I may never see this client for this project ever again. And that's a good thing. I always tell people, if you don't have to see me again, or that means we did our job and the project went well, and that's a good thing. Like,
that's that ounce of cure, or
ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure. Exactly. So just doing a little bit on the front end. When I say a little bit, a couple $1,000s, typically a contract negotiation, depending on how many pages it is and how much back and forth there is, fairly small retainer fee, a couple $1,000, maybe $5. And then you go and you do that whole transaction in a couple months or weeks back and forth. And so, that's what lawyers cost. But in order you might spend a few $1,000s to save yourself 10, 15, 100, 150, whatever the number is, later on in either legal fees or just, price of doing business whenever you have to negotiate a deal against a one-sided contract.
So absolutely. When like the reactive side of things happens, there's a big dispute. What do you usually see kind of goes wrong at that stage that maybe could have been prevented before?
Sure. I mean, and you have your contracts, lien rights, and big disputes slide here. I mean, a lot of times, if the progression goes, the contract is negotiated, the job starts, the work is starting to be performed, notices in some states, Louisiana has some notice provisions for material suppliers, but we're technically not like a notice state. Other states, I'm licensed in Texas as well, is a huge notice state. I don't do a ton of work there, but I know about it. California as well, and I'm licensed there. But you have to make sure that you're doing all these preliminary items first. So you're sending out your notices, and then when payments start to slow down, you're filing your liens in a properly timely manner. And then the majority of the people who are doing those things avoid the big disputes. The big disputes happen typically when it is a one-sided contract that was not negotiated. They missed their notice time periods. They didn't file their liens, or they filed them improperly. And then all of a sudden you have the person who's like, I'm owed $1 million. I did the work, and now, or I supplied the materials, and now they're just not paying me. What can I do? And I'm like, all right, well, did you do this, this, and this, and this? And they're like, no, 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 and no. And I'm like, well, you can get your checkbook out and pay me, and we can try to get you a decent deal, or you can just get ready to take a haircut and take a big deduction on the work that you did, because you have not set yourself up for success. And so, big disputes in Louisiana, especially, and with COVID and whatever, not only do they cost a lot of money, but it takes forever to get to trial and to get it, to get judges to rule on things, because nothing's in person anymore. And it is just a very slow, frustrating process. So you want to try to stay out of that as much as possible.
Definitely. If you could kind of sum up, if someone's trying to kind of figure out if they should hire a lawyer up front, in a proactive way, or save it for a reactive situation, anything like that, what advice do you have for people who are trying to figure out that balance?
Yeah. And so, and I'll come across and say this right now, a good construction lawyer is hard to find. A lot of times like a general contractor will get sued by a sub or whatever, and they'll tender it to their insurance. The insurance will run out and hire a big firm, big office building, big everything, big bills, all this stuff. But the GC doesn't have to pay those bills because their insurance picked it up. So in the rest of the world, the people have to go out and find a decent construction attorney. Construction attorneys, it's not a huge specialty. You have lots of other specialties where, you have a big volume of people you can choose from. You can go look on Google, you can read reviews, you can do all that stuff. And there just aren't tons of them out there. And so having, a service like Level Set, and working, the point is, if you have this service that can help you with notices and help you with liens and really prepare yourself and getting in the best position, then you also want to make sure that you have this attorney that you hired on the front end to help you negotiate this contract, which may or may not be hard to find. And then and then you use the attorney to negotiate the contract. You use a Level Set type program to send your notices and file your liens, because attorneys' offices sure as hell aren't going to do notices. I have not found any. We've actually tried through the years, and it's a real big pain because of the volume of them. It can be very, very tough, and the timing and everything. And then a lot of lawyers, they'll call us, all the time. Like, I'm a lawyer. I went to law school, didn't learn anything about liens. And so either I filed this thing and I think it's wrong and I've committed malpractice, or I've read the statutes and I have no idea what to do. So please help. And this is prominent lawyers, and it's a very specialized area. And so, yeah, you want to get the lawyer on the front end, have them help you with that, get a service like Level Set to help you with the middle portion of it. And hopefully everything is taken care of there. And then if it hits the fan, that's when you swing back around to the law firm, and you've done everything to preserve your rights, and you have to go out and chase down your money.
Absolutely. Thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure.
As you mentioned, finding a lawyer is actually really difficult, quality one, and kind of, knowing that you have them on your side. And also, as you mentioned, that's something that actually Level Set can help with, which I want to go into here for a minute. And okay. I also just want to let everyone know in the audience, if you have any questions at any time, you're welcome to drop them in the chat or the Q&A. And we'll also just pause at the end to have a dedicated Q&A session if anyone wants to ask Seth or me anything at all. So when it comes to finding a lawyer, we have actually this new service called Legal Guard, where we have a select set of vetted construction attorneys in about 18 states. I think we're adding more every day, every couple days, whatever. But basically, there's a flat fee that's a yearly annual rate, where some of those proactive services like contract review and sending a attorney demand letter or lien claim review are all just included, as well as a handful of other services like 30-minute phone calls. And in general, it just kind of fast tracks that step of getting someone on your side who you know and trust, and can, I guess, when it comes to a bigger dispute that's
Yeah, it's
good to have someone that you already know and work with. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, once if you've ignored all the front end stuff, if you haven't done the contract, you haven't sent everything out, and all of a sudden you go scrambling around for a lawyer, you're either going to Google it or you're going to ask your cousin, and they're going to know their friends, brothers, whatever, and you're going to get stuck with the schmuck. And there's a lot of lawyers out there who are that, and and it's just there's a lot who try to stretch and do things they shouldn't be doing. And I like to equate it to, you're not going to hire a roofer to come fix your toilet. And it's just one of those things where certain lawyers are good at certain things and certain ones are not. And you just don't want to hire somebody who thinks they're good at everything, especially something as technical as lien law. And so having a service like this is amazing. I mean, it's again, you can get the attention you need on the front end, and then you can also, as the process goes through, utilize the services of like Levelset's core of what they do with the liens and notices. And then on the back end, if you have calls or questions, or if you end up needing to go into a bigger dispute, I think you even get like a discount on their fees, right? Of the attorney that you've been working with. And so the awesome thing to me there seems like, instead of just going around to find somebody or hoping that they have good Google reviews, you're getting to work with lawyers that have either worked with other Levelset clients or they've been vetted by the legal guard process. And this company is putting their name by it. And so I think that's pretty solid in and of itself, because I've had to go out and try to find attorneys in other states for my clients, and it's really tough. And so it's just, finding somebody who's good, finding somebody that when you as an attorney refer them to, hey, look, go trust this guy, this gal, because, this, that, and the other, when you've only met them once or twice on the phone, and, you don't really know all their credentials, so having something like this would be, invaluable.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful also to just really put into context from like your perspective as a construction lawyer, how much all of these kind of services cost. If you are going to have a lawyer on your side, use them to help protect your business and your risk throughout the year, and try to have them on board in case something goes wrong. Because legal guard just this is not like a sales call or anything, but legal guard's like $2,000 a year or something. It's like it's a subscription flat rate. Like, how much would this kind of cost for?
Yeah, I was talking to Justin a little bit about this before the call, and he was kind of explaining to me the services of legal guard, and then he told me the price, and I was like, "Is that per month?" And he's like, "No, that's annual." And I was like, "That's free." So whenever you're going to hire a lawyer, I mean, most of the time you got to put $5,000 down, $10,000 down, and then you had the hourly rate. So at the end of every month, you're like, sweet, can't wait for that bill from my attorney. And, I've talked to him a few times, but have they been emailing the other side? Have they been writing pleadings? Have they been negotiating? Have they been doing all these other things? And then you get the bill and you're like, oh, well, they're doing a lot of work. So let's go see if they're making me any money or anything. And they're like, nope, here, can I get an update? Yeah, read the bill. So no, it's very frustrating, the legal process. And it's hard as a lawyer. I've tried flat fees, I've tried subscriptions, and it all circles back around back into the hourly rate, because it's what our clients understand the most, even though they hate it. And because otherwise they think that we're doing something fishy if we're, it's a flat rate or a subscription from a lawyer's end. And I've had people tell me that straight to my face. And then otherwise, yeah. And then the hourly billing is just the devil that and people, they do it. And then after 2 or 3 months or 4 months, they get really fatigued with it. And so all of a sudden, the incentive for them to call me when there is something wrong is really low, because they don't want to keep getting pinged with the hourly, per minute charge or whatever. And so they will let stuff slide that doesn't need to slide and end up costing them way more than our fee. But at the same time, they don't know it at that particular time. And so they would rather not make that phone call or not send that email, because they're getting just tired of being billed every single month. I mean, we'll go through a $5,000 retainer, especially with litigation or whatever. in no time. And many times we have to take, $25,000 and $50,000 retainers if we know it's going to be a highly contested case. And you just eat through that, and it's like, hey, replenish, and the client gets very frustrated. So the fact that you can get calls with attorneys, you can get demand letters, you can get, and I forget some of the other things that you told me, but regardless, with those, negotiating contracts and those various things, I mean, that in and of itself, again, I would think that you would be paying a law firm a whole lot more than what that fee is.
Sometimes, that element of taking the time to actually find someone who you want to work with.
Yeah.
You're also often charging to, email or, get on a consultation and even like figure out if you're going to be able to, work together on a case, right?
Absolutely. I mean, time is money in the legal world. And so anytime, a lawyer starts thinking about your case, the clock starts running. And, it's an unfortunate system, but it is the system that we're set up with. And, it's the one that works, especially when, it'd be different if, and even when you're the one that you're like, I'm the victim, I'm owed money, like, help me, take it on contingency. Most construction lawyers will not take that unless they're naive or haven't been through the ringer a few times, because inevitably in every construction suit, when somebody's like, I'm owed all this money, you sue them, and then all of a sudden the countersuit comes back and it's listing out 50 things of what that contractor did wrong, even if they did nothing wrong. It's just a strategy play, and it's just an extremely expensive endeavor.
Absolutely. So yeah, just to sum up, as I mentioned, Legal Guard is just kind of a flat service where upfront you subscribe, we match you pretty much same day or next day to someone that we've already vetted in your state, one of those 18 states that we've got. You can find out more about that at levelset.com/legalguard. I'll make sure to include links to that at the end and send them to everyone afterwards. But I also just want to mention, for anyone also just in all 50 states and anyone who's looking for some free help, just you really want to find an answer to something. We have this community at levelset.com/payment-help, I believe. I can also send a link to that, but you can just ask a question about construction payment, construction law, and an attorney we have thousands of attorneys in all 50 states who will just answer your question in a day or two. So that's another great resource.
And that is a great resource for everybody on this call. First of all, it's sort of like free legal advice, right? You're not going to get the full on legal advice because they're going to probably put a disclaimer or whatever, but it's so hard in the construction world to go out and Google for something and then say, okay, well, now I know the legal answer, because depending on what state you're in and whatever, it's very hard. And then if you go to a service like Avo or Reddit or any of these other community forums, it's a snowball's chance in hell that you're going to find a construction lawyer to answer your question. It's almost impossible. And so having a community that is just for construction law and having these, because they want to go in there and, answer questions and prove that they're a good lawyer. And then the community comes in and gets their question, asks the questions. That is a very, very, very good resource that people should be tapping into much more regularly.
Agreed. And you can ask question. You can also just search through that whole directory of construction lawyers. They're all construction lawyers, as Seth said. You can sort them by reviews, by your state, all that kind of stuff. And it's another great way to find someone in your area who can help you out, and you can reach out. And as Seth mentioned, we have lien rights automation. So sending out notices and tracking all the deadlines and paperwork and all that. That's something where at the end of, when it comes to a big dispute, having all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, we just handle all that. And that's just another service that we offer.
And to speak to that very quickly, contractors aren't the best people in the world with paperwork. And so as a lawyer, we love paperwork, and we want all documents, all correspondence, all this, that, and the other. Many times when people come to me I'm like, hey, did you send this notice out, or did you file this lien, or did you do this or that or the other? And the vast majority who are not using a service like Level Set are like, let me email my assistant, or let me do this, or let me do that. And then you get the paper, and it's a bunch of mess that we have to pull together, either go to the county or go to the parish and pull the documents from there. When we have people that use a service like Level Set, I mean, it's all right there. It's just boom, boom, boom. Every document's there, the certified mail, all of the information that you need is at your fingertips. And do the legal guard attorneys actually have some sort of way, or is it has to get the documents through the client, through Level Set? Like, do they have a way to get to access any of the documents that were filed?
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know either. And but regardless, you have you have the documents as the client, and then you have the legal guard attorney who can help analyze all that information as well. But yeah, I mean, it's having that and that will save you money. That will, because if your lawyer has to run out and try to gather all that information because you don't have it saved, that the clock is continuing to run. So I'm sorry, I'm probably going over and talking too much.
No, we're great. This has all been really great to hear. We're going to go to Q&A here. I think I just saw someone raised a hand. So yeah, if you want to put that in the chat. I saw someone asked if this recording will be available. That will be sent out by email tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And anyone who didn't attend live, look forward to you watching this tomorrow. Let's see. So actually, yeah, we do have a question here.
Sure.
Is the lien filed at a town hall by a certified mail and not a person?
All right. Yeah, I see that question, Kathy. Thank you for putting that in the chat. There are a couple different ways that you can file a lien. And so you can either and it just depends, COVID world, pre-COVID world, a lot of times you can't do things in person in the COVID world, but and in some jurisdictions. So basically, yes, you can go down and file it in person. Yes, you can normally mail file liens, and you can FedEx them, which is like Common Courier, FedEx, UPS, or whatever. A lot of times you can fax them to certain jurisdictions. That's kind of getting phased out, but the law loves to hold on to faxes. I don't know why. I think it's just because it's written in there and they don't know how to unwrite it. And then e-filing is a big trend that's coming along. But the awesome thing about a company like Level Set is that if you're paying me in my office by the hour to go figure that stuff out, because every jurisdiction is different. And when I say jurisdiction, I'm not talking about just the state of Louisiana. It would be like state of Louisiana, the parish of Jefferson, parish of Orleans, parish of St. Bernard, parish of this, that, and the other. And they're all different. Jefferson has e-filing. Ouachita, you have to only mail file or do it in person, or whatever the rules are. And so if we're having to go hunt all that down, they've already done all that homework for you. And so, yeah, exactly. And so I'm licensed in Louisiana, you're in the state of Connecticut, and I don't know this. And that's why software companies like Level Set are fantastic, because they know all the rules.
Yeah. And when it comes to Connecticut, it would be probably best to ask someone on the community. Like I said, we have a bunch of lawyers in Connecticut who can be happy to answer those questions. We're happy to forward some of that over also.
Sure.
Any other questions here?
And most of the time, there are multiple ways to file the lien. But don't get it wrong, because if you do any little thing wrong on a lien, it's invalid. And so there's no whoopsies if you've missed the deadline. So make sure that, you do it and you do it right. And, you get somebody who understands how to do that stuff to get it done for you.
Absolutely. Well, I don't see. Yeah, thanks for asking that, Kathy, and thanks for coming here. Thanks, Seth, so much for this conversation. I learned a lot. I found it very helpful. I hope everyone here did as well. Any closing thoughts? No further questions, scenes?
No, none here. Yeah, thank you for having me on. Love to talk about this stuff anytime. That's the nerd in me who likes to talk about lien law. But I enjoy it, and I think it's good, because when these are done right, to see contractors and suppliers and everybody get paid on the job like they're supposed to, and the job go off flawlessly without a hitch, is a wonderful thing. And so if anybody tells you that they like the fight part of it, they're just lying to you. It's good to see people get paid for the hard work that they performed.
Amen. Thanks again. Thanks everybody who showed up here live. And if those links that I mentioned are here on this page, I'll follow up with them after. And if you want to ask Seth or me any other questions, our emails are there at the bottom as well. And we'll see you next time.